Quite a number of issues to look at this week. You know, there's been a potpourri of sorts from international relations, what has happened in the United States, the return of the Trump, if you like to put it that way, according to Ayo. And then you also have the Vice President Shatima in Davos, and a number of other news that has happened locally here in Nigeria. The NCC has finally approved a 50% rate hike for telecom companies. So quite a number of things to look at this week, and we're looking at well, I said the summary of the news, even though it's just a Thursday. The summary of the news this week with Mr. Laolu Akande, who is a former presidential aide. But let's start with, I'm sure what you would think is the juiciest one here, the return of the Trump. I'm sure you listened to that inaugural address on Monday, as did many Nigerians, you know, paying attention to what is happening in the United States. How did it strike you?
Well, I mean, quite frankly, the return of Donald Trump and his kind and style of politics just sends me a message of possible redemption, that after all, we don't have a situation that cannot be cured. If the Americans felt somebody of Donald Trump should come back, it tells me very clearly that, you know, we're not dealing with what is impossible in Nigeria. That's my first take. I say, okay, so we're not the only one that think that our politicians have quite a number of issues, and that by itself is not an incurable problem. That's my first take. The second thing I see in the Donald Trump presidency is the return of it, is that there's going to be a slowdown to what I personally consider to be a perversion around gender dynamics in this world. You know, he said on the first day in office that the United States government, so when you get the American president, make it very clear that, look, there are going to be two genders. That is going to slow down a lot of the confusion and a lot of the moral complications that has had to happen because of some of the things that is going on. And the third point is how I think this might affect, you know, Nigerian relationship with America, with the U.S. Now, many people don't know that it was under the first term of President Donald Trump that we actually managed to get the Tucano jets. You know, our brother, you know, President Barack Obama, when he was president, you know, his government raised quite a lot of issues here and there that delayed the sale.
It's interesting you call him our brother.
Oh yeah, well, of course, it's our brother. We are Africans, all of us. But it was under Donald Trump who felt that, look, I mean, sell this thing to these guys, they need it. In any case, you know, it's a business day. So, you know, it's a mixture. You know, what has happened with the return of Donald Trump. And, you know, we are looking forward to a very exciting, you know, not only Americans are going to be getting a lot of excitement, the whole world is in for another bumpy ride with Mr. Donald Trump.
No, I guess that, you know, people are really unsure what to expect. I mean, but he's certainly not mincing words, and he's not ambivalent about how he intends to do things. The things that he has said he wants to do, he's already started doing them. He says, you know, illegal migrants will be deported. That exercise that is beneficial to the rest of the world, because before now, we've always looked to the United States to perform the role of big brother. But right now, it does appear that they are under an administration that intends to look inwards and wants to do things, you know, differently inside the house first. And however it is they're dealing with the rest of the world, they want to do business with the rest of the world, which is very much what China has been doing with the rest of the world. So why do we seem so apprehensive? It does appear that on the one hand, we don't want Big Brother telling us how to do things. But when Big Brother says, look, we're hands off, what we want to do is business, we're still a little concerned. What exactly is the issue? Well,
you know, I mean, the concern for me is not about the broad agenda of Mr. Trump to make America great again, or his intentions and plans to be insular. You know, I don't have any problem with that. What I have a problem with is some of the implications of the style of his politics, the language of his politics. You know, for instance, so he wants to ban the citizenship right of people that are born in America. Now that's an overreach, you know, and you could say that that doesn't affect Nigeria, or it does affect Nigeria. Because, there are a lot of Nigerians who are caught in that web. And I'm not saying that whether what it is that they are doing is right or wrong to have to want to go and give birth in those in the United States, but I'm saying that, look, there are certain things that even those who set up America, the founding fathers, in their wisdom, at the end of the day, if you look at it, America is an immigrant country. Okay, we know the history. So this attempt by Mr. Donald Trump, even going to the point that he's overreaching himself, is not going to, not only does he go against the grain of the founding fathers and the thought that went to the very idea of America, where everybody can come in, the best of the world gathered there. Not only does it go against the grain of it, but it also sends it's a poor reflection on what many people believe America stands for. Challenging the thing, and I think it's going to go all the way to the Supreme Court. You can't just by a fiat amend the American Constitution. So my concern is not so much that is going to compel people to do their own stuff, solve their own problems. No, it is about what might happen to the reputation of America, what might happen to the image of America. Because look, America and Americans enjoy the fact that this is the city on the hill. This is the nation of example, the greatest country.
Exactly. So I mean, you've talked about that. Even though citizenship by birth, is going to be a very controversial part, because even the Americans, I'm sure that a section of them believe that has been abused. People just find ways to come and give birth in their country, and automatically they're Americans. And I think that they believe that some parts of that particular allowance has now been abused, and maybe that's what they're trying to put a stop to. So there'll be controversy around that. Right. But in terms of other things that have now taken place, for instance, this pardon, which is granted, some people have said it is very controversial. Even members of his political party did say that, do not agree with this particular stance, especially when police officers were involved. I was reading an article, someone was talking about how, we talked about decorum in our elections. That did not happen during the elections. I mean, all manner of words were used during the elections. That particular action of pardoning people will be termed nepotism. That clearly those kind of words have not been used in those places. Now we're seeing tariff being placed on goods. They say, oh, that would be protectionism if we were other countries, but that has not been mentioned. So do you think that America has put itself in a situation where it has created a double standard? Even the West, so to speak, is creating a double standards of sorts. What they tell developing countries and tell them that they cannot do, they are now doing because they think, this is favorable to their country. Yeah,
I mean, exactly. That's why in my opening statement I said that, look, after all, we shouldn't think too lowly of our politicians. If this is the way the American president is going to behave. Look, the idea of the pardons is just so corrosive and such a huge damage. As a matter of fact, there is one particular of the convict who said that she's
not accepting the pardon.
How can you?
That's interesting. A convict saying, I deserve what I got, exactly. I'm not accepting this pardon.
Because some of them knew what they were doing and they wanted to stand for it. They wanted to go to jail for it because they wanted to make the point. So they knew they were breaking law. Some of the people that have not been freed by the United States president actually even have, criminal records, of all kinds of fraudulent activities online and all kinds of things. I mean, you don't do, even if you wanted to do it, you could have found a way to identify the people that are not the ringleaders, people that are not really so in the front. You just gave a blanket. Look, this is a damage. Whether he understands it or not, whether Americans understand it or not, this is a damage to America's reputation. It's a very tremendous damage to America's reputation. And the only reason why, America is going to have to recover is that this man's got only 4 years.
Well, I'm looking at the fact that it does appear that this is a very delicate mix, Because on the one hand, you have hailed the fact that, he's recognized two genders. I think many Nigerians would have, when they listen to that inaugural address, they would have stood up in applause for that particular, one. To say America only recognizes two genders, male and female. However, and we also recall the fact that during our fight against terrorism, we talked about the Tucano aircraft, the one that was approved for Nigeria. So it does appear that it's a delicate mix for the rest of the world that is watching. Overall, how would you say that we should view this? Do we view this, with optimism, or would you say we should view it with cautious optimism? Okay,
so depending on who is the we. Now, if you're talking about the government, the federal government. So the federal government must understand that this is a guy who is going to be involved. The heart of the deal. So if you have deals, if you present issues as a deal and you let him know how he benefits on it, it's probably going to be good with you. You're going to get whatever it is. Don't have too much expectation. This is not a president that tries to push the American image all over the place and say, because he's doing things that we injure that. So there are things that we can benefit, if we know how to approach him, because now we know the kind of his style, we know the kind of his character. We can do business with him. He did business with us on the Tucano. Even this idea of there are only two genders, it will help us because we have a very strong cultural basis that runs against that grade, which was becoming the trend in the Western world, that to the point that we were even afraid that some of the development assistance and aid that would normally come here, they are beginning to try to introduce the fact that we should, be a little bit flexible. So we have quite a bit of a relief from that, and so we can get back to a situation where we are dealing with development partners without having that big elephant in the room that nobody is talking about. So so as a government, that's how to deal with it. Now, as a people, so people who have enough means to go and give birth in America or other stuff. Okay, so
save your money,
yeah. I mean,
and make your own country great again.
It seems the party is coming to an end, but you'll be surprised, Mbakwe, that there are a number of Nigerians that are really, really head-on, supporters of Mr. Donald Trump. There was a guy in Jigawa who held a big party.
Indeed.
It's quite a very exciting development, and this next 4 years is going to be a real bumpy ride, and we will feel the impact here in Nigeria too.
Well, I know that Ayo will want to be a part of this party. Ayo.
I would rather, ignore the bumpy ride part, Mr. Akande, because our roads are getting better by the day, so please excuse me on that one. But, the one nexus that we have, between the United States of America today and something that Marco and I, jived about this morning is this medical practice, doctors, leaving the country and medical practice in Nigeria, medical training in Nigeria not getting its rightful place. But speak to this issue. In Abuja, we understand that there's some 3-day warning strike after a 3-week warning to the FCT administration concerning health workers and all of that. So one is concerned about the emigration of doctors from Nigeria, the way the medical practice in the country is, and all of that. It's I don't even know what word to use or how to even frame the question, given that on the one hand we're trying to discourage medical tourism, on the other hand we're not giving as much attention to both medical training and medical practice in the country. Or is it just something that seems like it?
Well, you are right that there are a lot of issues that should bother us, around that topic. The idea of the brain drain, I think it's what the CMDs, the chief medical directors, that made a statement 2 days ago that said that if care is not taken another 2 years, Nigerian hospitals will be virtually empty, coming up with figures that as much as 6,000 doctors have emigrated, in a few years, and all of those, very daring and quite sobering information. Now, what is clear is that we haven't found a right formula to manage this brain drain in the health sector. And it's not only doctors, but the doctors are the head of the team, and so there's a lot of focus on the doctors. So even if we're talking only about doctors, the CMDs have come out to say that we are in trouble. So and it's not just an Abuja situation. You know, the doctors in Abuja just happen to be the ones that are out in the news trying to push the issues. It is a national crisis. Now, we see that Professor Ali Pate, you know, is coming up with some very new initiatives like the Health Fellows concept, which is a very brilliant idea, you know, but clearly we need to pay attention and in a very urgent manner, in a matter that suggests a national emergency, to the way and manner we are losing the doctors. You know, we have to do something comprehensive about it. We have to do something urgent about it. And if we don't, it's going to be getting worse and worse. And of course, it comes back to the conditions of service, which is extremely poor, extremely poor.
You know, I mean, one thing that's a little worrisome. Yeah, my apologies, Mr. Akande. One thing that's a little worrisome, and I don't know why this comes to mind for me from time to time, and that's the fact that one of the blessings that I think democracy encourages is that democracy in every National Assembly, every government, there are people of various, diverse, limitless disciplines. We have medical doctors, medical practitioners in the National Assembly, in the presidency, in the federal ministries and the state ministries all over the place. Do you think those who are in the industry and happen to be in vantage positions of authority, do you think they are as concerned? Because I feel, I mean, you and I are we are media practitioners. If we saw something going wrong, we definitely will call attention to it, irrespective of whatever position, and that's something that you did when you were in government. So, do you think the medical practitioners in in positions of authority, vantage positions of authority, are seeing this situation as dire as you are seeing it right now?
Well, so we've had instances where the NMA, which is the Association of Nigerian Medical Doctors, and other agencies have called attention to this problem. I think that those who are in those offices today, they are clearly aware of it. They have called attention to it, but not at the level that addresses the urgency of the problem. I mean, and that is what is very clear. You know, this is a national emergency because it's a systemic rot that has come up in that area. So much so that, look, many of the doctors that are on the ground, their eyes is set outside already for the most part, and they're just waiting for the next opportunity. It's a crisis that we recognize, no doubt. It's a crisis that we are aware of, the people inside and the people outside, but we don't seem to appreciate the urgency of it. And thank God for the chief medical directors. They are the ones who said a few days ago that, look, we are not going to have doctors anymore in a question of a couple of years. So Ayo, the issue is that people are aware, inside and outside, but the level of the urgency, this is a national emergency, and we have to have a systemic, a whole government, all society approach to deal with it, and deal with it in good time.
Well, still on that issue, again, the issue Maokwe and I, we raised it earlier in the day, where medical students in the University College Hospital, Ibadan, founded in 1952, initiated in 1948, well before Nigeria became independent, and became a doyen of sorts of medical practice, such that people from all over the world came to get medical attention here in Nigeria, in this particular University College Hospital. And now we find that that same University College Hospital and a number of other institutions, because the spokesperson of the protesting students mentioned it, that it's not just UCH that is having this challenge of power supply problems. In a school, a tertiary institution, so many other institutions, they are calling out for urgent attention to it. Who should be doing what? Because these issues, Mr. Akande, you know very well, as we say on the streets, not be today.
Not be today. And this is what I have been trying to call attention to, in many of our engagements, to say that, look, some of the major problems of the day, they are not the problems of the current administration alone, even though now they are responsible. These are problems that have accumulated over the years, especially since 1999. And it is why it's important for all hands to be on deck. I mean, look at the problem of power, for instance. As we are speaking now, two former presidents, former President Obasanjo and former President Buhari, and some other ministers are, they are giving witness in an international arbitration in Paris over the issue of power, the Mambila power project, which was clearly mismanaged by some of the former presidents, clearly. So we have very deep-rooted problems. The time has come, and this is my own take, the time has come for us to have a national consensus that sets aside politics, that sets aside ethnicity, that sets aside regionalism, that sets aside religion, anything that separates us. Let us put it aside and solve some of these problems. Power is one of them. There is no reason, there is no good reason today that we should be dealing with a situation where, a university hospital doesn't have power. Look, like we were talking about UCH, the king of Saudi Arabia used to come for medical checkup in UCH. I know of people when I went to the US who told me, doctors, that they came to do their residency in UCH, in the 60s, in the 70s. And we are losing all of those reputation. We are losing all of those institutions because of a problem that has been on forever. So we have to come together, set aside our differences and say, look, these are problems that we can solve, and these are problems that we should solve with a national mindset, a common mindset. We shouldn't subject it to politics so that we can get out of it. Once we solve it, then we can go back to politics. It's not an opportunity for politics, it's an opportunity for a national consensus. And we've had a national consensus in this country on several issues. We have on rotational presidency, it's a national consensus. The fact that we don't want to go back to the military, it's a national consensus. We need to have a developmental national consensus in this country, and the time to do it is now.
Well, talking about certain differences aside, the president did emphasize that in a meeting that held with Ogoni leaders, and we saw there the governor of Rivers State and also the minister of the FCT and also a number of prominent Ogoni leaders in that particular meeting. What do you think it was meant to achieve? Do you think that would be able to resolve whatever crisis will be in not just Ogoni land, but perhaps the larger River State?
Yeah, you see, and this I'm going to say is something that is an insight that I got because I served in the president. There's a bit of indolence in the way that our system operates. If not, we should have the issue of Ogoni land should have been sorted out. The cleanup, the pace of the cleanup, it should have been sorted out. But because of several other problems, including but not limited to corruption, that is why you still have, after the UN has done a report, we all know what the problems are. The funding is even there. Okay? So what the president is trying to do is that the president wants to ramp up oil production. And we all know that there's quite a bit of the stuff in Ogoni, that if you are able to get Ogoni back online, it will be able to push out. So the man is desperate. He's trying to say, look, we cannot solve this problem if we don't forget the past. But it requires a whole society approach. And we must commend him for bringing everybody together. I even brought Wike and Fubara in the same room and everybody was smiling. So That is the kind of attitude that we need to solve some problems. We must set politics apart just to solve this problem, because the people, after all, they're the ones that are suffering from some of these problems, which arose clearly from poor political leadership. But the way to solve it is to make it non-political. It's governance time. Let's govern. Let's support the people in government if they are honest. Let's put their feet to the fire. Let's call them out when we think they are wrong. But by all means, let us work together.
Your perspectives are always appreciated, Mr. Laolu Akande. We have to thank you so much for your time with us this morning. Mr. Laolu Akande is a former presidential media aide. Well, that's how we wrap it up this morning, this beautiful Thursday morning on Sunrise Daily. Thank you so much for being a part of the production and for watching. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
Well, we truly appreciate your comments, Professor Nakena and Jesus for the Street and Festus Akimboyewa, among others. Truly appreciate them. Have a wonderful and productive day. I'm Ayo Makinde.